What's up, dude?
Not much. How's it going? I thought you were gonna do this long intro, so I was like,
No, keeping it simple. So, yeah, we're kind of living in this strange, very niche world of teachers who have also been on reality TV. Like, it's weird. It's us, and then like I know there's some other people who are on like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette who kind of live
I
in
don't
this
know.
world as well.
I saw her on Squid Games. There was a girl. She just started following me. Her name was Figgy.
Oh,
And
she did Survivor. She was
she
a
did
Survivor.
Survivor. She did Squid Games, and now well, I guess those two. And now she follows me. But I was like, oh shit. I was like, she's a teacher. When I saw it on Squid Games, I was like, oh, I'm gonna follow her because I was like, that's cool. So, because
Yeah.
like she's in the same boat. Like clearly they filmed when they filmed, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure she took off, and now she has pictures of her in her classroom. So she didn't leave teaching.
Yeah.
So-
Well, and that's what like everybody talks about is like, did you guys leave teaching to film? So like the show I was on was Surviving Paradise, and the show you were on was The Trust. So when did you guys start filming that, and how did that like? Let's start from the beginning. Like, how did that work? How did you get on the show?
Well, yeah,
did you
I'm
apply
curious
for it?
how you got on too. So
Yeah.
we'll do both. All right. So mine is this. So I auditioned for a show on the History Channel. They were looking for someone who knew history and was funny. So I was like, oh shit, like I'm a comedian and I know history. I'm a history teacher. So I auditioned, went pretty far, like 2-3 rounds in, whatever. Didn't get it.
What was the name of
forward-
the show? What was the show?
No, they don't tell you any of that stuff.
Ah, yeah.
So it probably never even got made. Or if it did,
You don't
I
know
never
about
heard
it.
of So
Yeah.
anyway, or I think it might have even been like I'm just commenting on things, like So I don't know. Either way, so I go to a fast forward now, maybe like a year, a little more later, and the casting director calls me and she's like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me. It's so and so from the we have a show coming up. We think you'd be perfect for it. We remembered you from your audition last year." And I was like, "Oh shoot!" But like anything Hollywood-esque, you're always skeptic of. You know what I mean? You're just
Yeah.
like, I'm like, all right, cool, like whatever, sure. So like I go to the first interview, okay, second interview, okay, third interview, fourth. Now all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're gonna run background checks on you, and I'm like, oh shit, like this might be getting like a little more real, like it was kind of crazy. And then that was started in October. By January, they called me and they're like, hey, don't book any stand-up shows in March. So I was like, nah, I'm still gonna book because I don't believe it until I have it. I
Yeah.
was like, I make more money doing comedy than teaching, so like I gotta do comedy stuff. So she's like, listen, just trust me, don't book. I go, do I have it? She's like, we can't say. I'm like, then I'm gonna book. So, but then a part of me was like, damn, like I am going pretty far in this, so let me not be a dumbass. So I go to my school. So in New York, you have to resign in order to get paid. You can't just like take a leave from teaching. It doesn't work like that. So if you want to get paid from another job, you cannot be a teacher anymore. So I had
Really?
to,
Why? Like, what? Why is that a rule?
because New York City feels like you can't get paid from two entities at the same time. So like I can't take a leave to go work another job. It just doesn't work like that in New York.
Huh. So you had to resign your job to go do this show.
And you have to resign 30 days in advance. So
Jeez.
I'm like, oh, fuck. I don't even know if I have the show yet. They're telling me March. So what I did was I put in the paperwork in the beginning of February. I said, listen, I don't know if I'm going to get this, but this is what's happening, and it's looking good, but I don't know. So the paperwork doesn't become official till the day you resign. They just need to have it on file 30 days before. So literally on like February 27th, I'm doing a show in Boston. I'm getting off the stage, and my phone's ringing, email, text message. I'm like, who the hell? Like, and it's Netflix, and they're like, basically like, hey, we want to have a meeting with you tomorrow. I said, look, if you called me to tell me to have a meeting tomorrow to tell me I didn't get the show, I'm canceling my subscription to Netflix right now. I was like, so either got it or I didn't. And they were laughing. They were like, just join the meeting tomorrow. So I'm like, oh, fuck. So I go home from Boston, drive back to New York, take this meeting. They're like, you got it. Congratulations. Like, we fly out in 2 days. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I can't fly out. Like, I have to go back to work.
Yeah.
And, like, tell my job and like explain, set up a sub like with work. You know what I mean? Like,
Dude,
there's a
well,
lot-
and here's what I don't get with that is, like, because I kind of had like the same type of situation when I was getting on mine. Do these casting directors and producers think that most people can just at a snap of a fingers, like, all right, I can go film on location for 3 weeks? Like,
Yeah, but
how
you know
many
what?
people? How many people are like, yep, I can be there tomorrow. I can do it.
Dude, I said the same thing, and I'm like, all right, fine. A lot of people are business owners or entrepreneurs or whatever, but like, even if you own a business, it's not that easy to just walk away for a month. Also, we knew nothing about our show. So now, like, here I am trying to explain it to my school, like, hey, I'm going to be gone. Not sure what I'm doing. Not sure anything of it. So I go in that next day. They told me on a Thursday, but it was the break. So I go in on that Monday, and I'm like, hey, this is my last day. I was like, those papers, we're actually going to go through with them. And my school was cool about it, I guess, and I went and I filmed, and then I came home, and I had to get reinstated. I had to fill out all the paperwork again, go through the whole process. But the only difference was, like, I didn't lose tenure, I didn't lose salary, I didn't lose anything. I lost 2 months of pay while I was gone. That's it. But I got paid to be on the show, so it didn't.
Yeah. So
it
did you
canceled
come
out.
back and have the same exact spot in like the same exact room?
No, because the person that filmed my spot they were like, we're gonna keep him here, but then there was happened to be another teacher had to leave, and they were like, oh, we'll put you in their spot. So like, my school was great. They took me back. So like, I really couldn't complain. I was like, whatever you guys want to do, you want to make me teach science, gym, math, like, I just need my job back.
Yeah,
And
I just need to get paid. I need insurance.
yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, look, I took a gamble. It was a risk. And now, like, because a lot of people are like, oh, you have a family. You just walked away from me. I didn't walk away. My wife has health insurance. We just transferred our benefits to my wife. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not stupid. I have 2 kids. I didn't, like, say screw them and leave. So these are things you get yelled at online for. So how did
dude,
you
it's
get
crazy.
How did you get on?
Dude, this was a multi-year process. So there was one day I get a DM from somebody, and they're like, hey, I'm a casting producer, or I don't know the right word, casting director for Studio Lambert. We're casting a show called Jet Set, and we think you'd be great at it. Do you want, like, we'd love for you to apply? I'm like, all right, sure, I'll give it a shot, whatever. And then this was like probably winter of 21, I think. I think it was winter of 21. And no, maybe 20. So winter of 2020. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I'll give it a shot. I'll apply for it. And then go through a bunch of different interviews. And then they were like, hey, we want you on the show. This is now spring of 21. Like, we want you on the show. We're going to film in the spring. And I was like, well, I can't film in the spring. I'm teaching. So I declined the show. I turned it down. I was like, I can't do it. It doesn't work with my work schedule. At that point, I was in my first year with it was my first year with the district I was in. And then they're like, oh, that's a bummer. Like, we really want you. And then the Delta variant hits for COVID, shuts down filming because they were going to film it in Greece, completely shuts down filming. And then a year later, I get an email, and they're like, hey, we're still going to do Jet Set. We're wondering if you want to be on the show. Like, we want to do one more round of interviews. I was like, wow, the show's still going on. Sure, I guess I'll do it. Apply for or do the interviews. Like, we would love to have you come on. We're gonna fly you out May 15th. And I was like, I can't fly out May 15th. My last day of school is May 25. That'd be 2 weeks of school I was gonna miss. The end of the school year, I didn't want to do it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to turn it down. I appreciate it. And then that day,
They're probably like, we're giving you a freaking fame. Like, be on our show.
Seriously, yeah. And then they were like, all right, well, what can we do to get you on? And I said, if we can get me, if I would fly out May 20th, it's a different story. I'd miss 5 days of school. I can maybe make that work. So then she's like, all right, give me the day to figure this out. And like 2 hours later, she calls and she's like, hey, we can fly you out May 20th. Is that going to work? Let's lock it in. So I was like, I didn't think they were going to budge. So I'm like, oh, shoot, this is now real. I could do this. And you know how it is, the last week of school is really important and you want to be there. So I was talking to, yeah.
Well, want to be there and important are two different
True,
things.
true, very true, very, very true. So I talked to like my coworkers. I'm like, hey, here's the deal. Should I do this? And they're all like, do it, do it, do it. I talked to my family. They're like, you should do it. So I go to my admin and I was like, hey, here's the situation that's going on. I believe May 20th. If I do this, will you guys hold this against me when it comes to renewing my contract? And he's like, this is a once in a lifetime thing. Do it. He's like, we won't hold it against you. We'll all be rooting for you. You should do it. So then that day I committed to it, and it was crazy. Like that whole process going through it is interesting. Like I remember doing the audition tapes for it. Like I was kind of stiff right away in the beginning of it. When you do it via Zoom. And I remember there was the orange recording dot that shows you're being recorded. And I answered a couple questions, and then all of a sudden the orange dot went away. And whoever I was talking to, she was like, hey, do you have any alcohol in your house? I was like, yeah, of course I do. She goes, go take 2 shots right now, and then come back and let's continue doing this. So I went and took 2 shots and then came back and was going through that audition process. But it was wild. Crazy things people don't realize is when you go out to film these things, they don't really tell you what the plot is.
And like we knew nothing about the show. So it's very hard to like justify to people that you're going to leave and then say nothing. So people just thought I was like signed an NDA and I couldn't say what I was doing. Because Netflix literally was like, oh, it's kind of like Big Brother, kind of like Traders, kind of like The Mole. And I'm like, so it's kind of just a show with people in a house. Like I was like, should I start working out? And they're like, no, it's not physical. It's all mental. And I'm like, all right, that's good for me. Like, I like that. And then when I told my principal, very similar, like my principal was pretty cool about it. He was like, look, he's like, this is probably never going to happen again in your life. So like, not that anyone like encourages people to resign, because it's like, it is risky, because like I could have came back and he could have been like, yeah, I'm not giving you your job back. And probably if I didn't have stand-up, I would have not did it. Yeah, so like my principal was basically like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And like I said, I didn't know if I was coming back to a job, but I just started thinking to myself, if I say no, then this show comes out. Then this show's like a huge hit. And I mean, it was like number 2 on Netflix for like 2.5 weeks straight. So I was like, if it's out and I'm just watching it from home, I'm going to be pissed. And if I didn't have stand-up, I probably might not have taken the chance, because like I said, there was no guarantee I get my job back. But I always said, worst case scenario, I just do stand-up full time. So it's not like I had no plan B going into it. So, but now I have a question for you. Were you on the show, you came in late. Is it because of this?
Yeah, dude. So it was pretty much completely because of that. So that was a crazy experience. So we filmed that over in Greece. And at the time, the COVID stuff was still, like in the US, it was pretty much over, but over there, it was still pretty hot. So I needed 5 days of quarantine. And then after those 5 days, they were like, hey, there's a chance you go on. There's also a chance you don't go on. So then it was another almost a week and a half of me just being stuck in this hotel room. And I could only leave for an hour a day. And I was chaperoned the entire time.
Yep.
And it was like this weird, like there was no control. I had no control over anything. I remember talking to the chaperone. I was like, yeah, I couldn't sleep last night, so I took some NyQuil. And she's like, oh, I have to document that. Anything that you take, I have to write that down. So like coming in late, I always kind of knew that there was a chance I was going to be on the show or not on the show, because that's what they told me. And I could only leave my hotel room that they kept me in for either
Frozen.
It was like 2 hours. It was at the beginning 1 hour a day, and then later it was 2 hours a day. And it was the weirdest thing, because you just felt like you were so out of control. And it was just weird. I didn't like it. And then I remember there was one point where I ended up getting a hold of kind of the head honcho of the show. And I was like, hey, you have to tell me what's going on, because I'm going crazy. Am I going on the show? Am I not going on the show? Can you just tell me? And he's like, I can't tell you that. I can't tell you if you're going on or not going on. And then I remember thinking, all right, then I'm just going to leave. Like, I want to go home. And then my family, they're like, no, you can't go home because you're already this committed. Like, just wait it out a couple more days and see what happens. Like, did you have kind of the same thing?
Yeah, like people don't realize the whole quarantine beforehand, like, because my wife, everybody's like, it must have been the nicest time, 5 days alone in a hotel room. Yeah, 5 days alone in a hotel room is fun if you have the option to leave. Like, but when you don't have the option to leave, it's actually torturous because first off, our TV was only in Spanish. It was no English on the TV. So I didn't have a TV. I only had the balcony.
Where did you film? Where did you film it?
We filmed in Dominican Republic.
Okay.
Yeah, so we only had a balcony. So the balcony faced the front of the hotel, not the backyard. Not the pool, not the water, not the beach, because they didn't want you to look out the window and see like the handler walking with another castmate. Yeah. Not to mention
the handler.
Well, that's what they called them, you know. Not to mention, like, we didn't even know what we were filming. So, and then like every time they would come to the room, they would bring food or something. I'd be like, wait, don't leave. And they'd be like, no, we got to go. And I'm like, hold on, I'm hurt. I hurt my ankle. I would just fall on the floor and they're like, we're leaving. Like, stop. Like, because it's like you're so freaking lonely. And I think that they do it to make you like psychologically, like when you're then released into the wild, aka, you know, the house, you've now been home for like 5 days just itching to get out.
Yeah,
so,
it's like they put you in a cage, rattle the cage, and then like, okay, now go on TV. Like now go out for the world to see you. I remember thinking that I was on the show in quarantine. I remember thinking like, is this the show? Is the show this psychological game of we're gonna trick people into thinking they're going on to a show and we just hold them in a hotel room?
Dude, I was looking around the hotel room. I was moving. I mean, because all you had was time. So I was like picking things up. I'm like, maybe this is a camera. Then anyone who came to my room for anything, I was like, this is probably a test. Oh, they're checking. Also, so I didn't have the same fear of the not going on because I straight up said to them, I said, listen, when they told me I got it, I was like, I really appreciate it, but I have a friend who was on Traders, but she was originally on the Circle, and she thought she was on the Circle. She was waiting to go into the Circle, and then they were like, hey, you're an alternate. And she's like, wait, what? And she had no clue. And they were like, but hang around for a while and we might use you for something else. And she ended up being used in Traders.
Wow.
But that doesn't happen to everybody.
Dude,
so like,
there's so many people who are supposed to be on the Circle that didn't make it. There are people on my show that they're like, yeah, I auditioned for the Circle. They flew me out. And then I got sent home after 2 weeks of quarantine.
Yeah. And like, so I straight up said to them, I said, listen, Netflix people, I was like, I am having to leave my job. I have children. I was like, I am not resigning to be an alternate. We can't tell you if you're an alternate or not. I said, then I can't commit. Yeah. And they're like, well, just trust us. Like, we can't tell you if you're an alternate or not, but trust us. You should come. And I was like, all right. So it was like, they didn't tell me, but they told me just please believe us that you're going on the show. So,
well, and I think that we're lucky where we have the social media stuff, like the influencer stuff that like we have that going on for us. So we didn't put all of our eggs in one basket of saying, I need to go on this reality show because I want this to jumpstart my entertainment career. Because anymore, like 10 years ago, if you go on a reality show, yeah, it can change your life. But now there's a lot of reality shows, and reality TV doesn't necessarily change your life just by being on the show. It's like a trampoline. It gives you the opportunity to propel into the stratosphere if you play your cards right. But just being on a reality show anymore doesn't do it for you.
And it's crazy because like you see some of these people who are on reality shows, and then you're like, wow, they were on a major show. Then you go to their social media, and not that following is everything, but it's a big part of how you get money for social media.
Yeah.
And like you'll go on their page, then you're like, oh, you were just on a major show and you have 3,000 followers. Like that's kind of wild to me. Like, and I know, like, so I went to this like Netflix party last month, and it was so funny to me because I've had from comedy a following before the shows. And then I met all these people who were like the big people of Netflix. Mind you, I don't watch TV except football. So my wife's like, I'm going to make you of a PowerPoint of all the important Netflix people. So when you meet them, you don't look like an idiot. And I was like, I don't give two shits who's important in the Netflix world. Like, to me, if you're good to me, I'll be good to you. That's kind of how I live life, whether you're rich, poor, whatever. So when I was meeting these people, I'm talking to them, and they thought they were all hot shit, whoever they were. I won't throw people under the bus, but they were like, I was on
Say
this.
names. Say names. Who was it?
Yeah, right. So they were like, I'm on this. I was on this. I was on this. And I'm like, oh, cool. Then like
Cool.
I go.
Never seen it. Cool.
Yeah.
Never seen it.
No, literally, like I was like, someone was like, oh, I was on the mole. I was like, the molt? And he's like, the mole.
Is there tea in there?
And I was like, oh shit, is it good? Like, just to like, because like they thought they were hot shit. But then like I go on their social media, I'm like, dude, how do I have more following than you? Were on 5 TV shows.
Yeah.
All I am is a teacher from New York City. And I have a bigger, like, it blew my mind because it's true. Like, you think you're going to blow up from being on these shows. You're hot for a few minutes, and then, like everything else, 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, it can be a great way to help you if you play your cards right. Like, it can definitely do it, but the draw isn't anymore to people like, oh, I was on reality TV, so now you should follow me. It's like, no, people will look at your profile because you were on reality TV. And then I think people like you and I, they're like, oh, they make cool teacher content. I can relate to that because of whatever. Now I'm going to follow them. Yeah. And I think, like, I know there are people on my show who thought that this was going to be a completely life-changing event. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun for a month. There's a lot of attention for a month. But then it's over and there's another show. Like, my show came out a couple weeks before Squid Games. And yeah, it was forgotten about after Squid Games came out. It's like, all right, next.
Well, and that's the thing. And now Squid Games was huge. And then our show came out. And now Squid Games is irrelevant. And then will be irrelevant. And then the next show will be irrelevant.
Yep.
I mean, so that's the thing. But like I said, like, you have all your other stuff. I have the comedy stuff. So at the end of the day, this was cool. But this was never, like, my end goal wasn't to just be on this one show and then that's it. And now I thought I was going to be rolling in cash.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's so funny because, as you know, like, then when you come home, so first off, when I came back, everybody's like, well, what happened? What happened? You're like, I don't know. Like, you can't really say. And then on top of it, now the show's out. So what was your students? So yours came out in like October, right?
Yeah.
November. Yeah. So like, how did your students react?
Oh, dude, it's funny because, like, as a middle school teacher, they're going to be brutally honest with you, like, about everything. And it was interesting, like, because I know when I was on the show, I was pretty polarizing. You either loved me or you freaking hated me, which part of that is my personality. Part of that is the edit, whatever. It's reality TV. It's there to stir emotions. So there was a lot of kids that were like, you were like, wow, Mr. Dana, you were intense on the show. And I'm like, yeah, that's just, we were there to play a game. Like, yeah, it was fun. We liked watching you. And some of them were like, you are not like how you are in real life. Like, that was interesting. So some of them kind of made fun of me because of it, which, like, they're middle schoolers and I deserve it. Like, there was one kid that just made fun of, like, all the clothing that I wore. And they had, like, screenshots of it. And then, or like, they took a picture of it. They couldn't screenshot the show. And they would be like, hey, you look like this. And, you know, just like making fun of my outfits, making fun of me looking like a grandpa. So that was fun. But I thought it was interesting, like, staff members watching the show. I had so many that came up to my room. They're like, oh my gosh, you did amazing. What about this? What about this? How do you think of this person?
It's
was
relentless.
This like? Yeah.
That part of it's crazy.
So, I mean, the people. And like, for me, like I said, I was pretty polarizing on the show. I was pretty cutthroat. So the only opinions that I took of people were like the people that I trusted. I'm like, hey, you watched the show. How do you think I came across? And the people that I value their opinion, they're like, you came across as pretty dang cutthroat. You were intense, but you made the show entertaining. So I think you come off pretty good. And I always made sure to keep that in mind because I would read something on the internet, like go on Twitter or Reddit, and one person is like, I hate him. He's the worst person ever. And then the next comment is, I love his stuff. He's fantastic. I love what he did. And that polarization is hard. But like, what did the students say to you?
So mine was kind of interesting. So I teach high school. So they're older. They're more independent. You know what I mean? Just with life. So when the trailer came out, I noticed a lot of kids were like, on their phones, like all sharing it. And I'm like, I just played dumb. Like, I'm like, what are you guys watching? And they'd all be like, oh, nothing, whatever. And then obviously that first batch dropped. on a Wednesday. So it was just comical because I didn't watch the first batch. So like my mom woke up at 3 a.m. My mom got up. She watched the first 4 episodes. And then I called her on the way to work. She's like, you look great. You didn't say anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You were just like the comic relief of the show. Like you are yourself. You know what I mean? Like you didn't do anything, whatever. So then I was having a premiere party for the show that night. So I said, let me not watch it at all. And I'll watch it with everybody at the premiere party. So like,
you were probably the worst person to watch it with.
Oh, dude, we were in a friggin' bar and with about 100 people, and I paused it every time something happened. But then, you know, it's funny. Everybody made fun of it, but then when they watched the rest of the episodes, they had 100 questions. I said, oh, now you don't want to make fun of it. I was like, they were like, no, the director's cut's kind of cool with you explaining it. Because as you know.
The director's cut, that's funny.
But like, as you know, like the villain edit, that's real. Like in our show, like the girl told, like I mean, I don't know. I know you watched some of it, but like, there's a boys versus girls alliance that never actually was a real thing. So like the show made it like it was boys on one side of the house, girls on the other, like it was a middle school dance. It wasn't really like that. It was like me, Brian the cowboy, the girl Tolu. We were all really close. They don't even show us interacting once. So it's so interesting because you're like, oh, well, that's not really how that happened. So I was like explaining all that to everybody while we watched. And then when I go to school the next day, all the kids have it downloaded on their phones. So like kids are just straight watching episodes. Mind you, I watched the first episode, then I went to bed because by the time I got home it was like 10 o'clock. The next day I got home from work. My daughter had gymnastics. My son had chess. We didn't even watch it till 9 o'clock. And then my wife fell asleep while we were watching it. So I was like, I'll watch it with you. So we waited till the next day. So everyone's asking me questions. I'm like, I haven't watched yet. They're like, how did you not watch? I'm like, we don't get it sent to us beforehand.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, that was funny. And then like, it would be funny because like kids, this girl raised her hand. She's like, Mr. Ndazzo, can I ask you a question? She has a worksheet in her hand. So I walk over to her. I'm like, yeah, what's up? She's like, why did you save Julie in the vault? And I'm like, it's kind of funny. So, but then what happened was I, you know, like they just questions, like you said, it's just relentless. And then like everybody I work with has questions and everybody comes to my room and everybody wants to know the same things. And then it's like after the finale dropped on Wednesday and we had professional development on Wednesday in the building.
Oh, nice.
So everybody's like, can you just do a professional development in the auditorium where you explain the ending? Can we just watch it together? So like everybody on lunch is watching the show. So it was kind of funny because I would just walk from like room to room and people just watching it. And I'm like, oh, hey, is this show any good? And they're like, whoa, it's so weird. Like watching you watch the show. And like people have so many questions, which I get. You know what I mean? Because like even when you were on the show, I had questions for you. You know what I mean? So now imagine like you're working with somebody every day. Like my co-teachers are like, dude, what happened here? What happened? You know? So, and then as far as like the online stuff, you got it much worse than me because you played more of a villain role or not a villain. You know, it depends how you view it. Yeah. Like for me, I was
a wrecking ball. I was a wrecking ball.
Yes. And like for me, that wasn't my role. Like, and everybody's brought on these shows for a reason, you know? And for me, mine was more of like the comic relief, keep the peace, make everybody get along. So it was kind of funny because like the comments are all pretty good, except like I get like, all I get a lot is like, you're Nick Miller from New Girl. You're Nick Miller over and over again. It's relentless. But another comment I got that was great was, this one had me cracking up. It said, I love when they do overhead camera shots of the whole cast because you can see where Gasper's hairline receded to. And I'm like, what? Like, who wrote that? And like, it just makes me laugh because it's just so dumb. And like, there was another one. It's like, I'm going to wake up, I just woke up and I'm going to rank the characters in the show from physically best looking to least attractive. Yeah. And it's like Tolu, Julie, Winnie, the whole list. And then I'm at the very bottom and it's like, this guy can't be any more average. He sucks. But it's like, why? You know?
Dude, some people are relentless on the internet, and like some of it's funny, and some of it sucks.
But here's my thought process. You woke up and you were like, you know what? I'm gonna rank the cast members from best looking to least, purely based on physical. Like, how much time do you have on your hands to do that? You know?
I know, and well, that's like what I did, like on
You're
my
frozen.
Instagram. On my Instagram stories, you can see it. Like I screenshotted all the tweets or a bunch of the tweets and DMs that I got that are the polar extremes. Like this guy, like there was one that said, "You're trash as fuck. Your white mom should have swallowed you." Like that was a real life DM that I got. And then below that, the next DM is, "You were my favorite person on the show. I loved you." And it's like that's hard. Like it's hard to deal with that. And I remember. Like when all that was going on, one of the worst times, dude. So I was getting ready to do a comedy show in Sioux Falls, like a big theater. A bunch of my coworkers are there, like a whole bunch of people. I mean, like 1,200 people, gorgeous theater. I was super excited. And the show had come out like 2 days before. Like the show was fresh. There was so much hype behind it. And I started looking at Twitter and trying to see like what are people saying about the show. And then I started seeing just some negative stuff, like Gabe is a piece of shit. He's racist. He's not even a teacher. And then all of a sudden that just hit me like a wall right before I was going on to go perform. And I was sitting in the green room like, oh no, is this how the show is going to go? Like, is this going to be really bad? And obviously the loud stuff covers up the positive stuff. So I was started like getting ready to walk out and go perform in front of a bunch of my peers. And I just have in the back of my head of, is this show going to go really bad for me now? Like, is this going to be like a career ruiner for me online? And then it was kind of that roller coaster of ups and downs through most of it. And then I remember talking to Annie about it. She was like, hey, when you see an athlete or an actor or somebody on a show that you like, what do you do? I was like, well, you follow them and maybe like their videos. Maybe you leave them a comment. Maybe. And I was like, yeah, that's what you do. And then she's like, what about if people don't like you? What's the only option that you can do? Well, it's either leave a negative comment or DM them. And she was like, how many followers did you gain across all your platforms? I was like, a ton. Like, I mean, tens of thousands. And she's like, all right, how many negative comments and videos are you getting? I don't know, maybe 100, maybe 200. She's like, okay, there you go. There's your ratio. There's way more positive than there are negative. So who cares about the negative? But it can be so loud. Like, it can be so loud.
And that's the problem. It's like, you could read a million comments telling you you're the funniest, and then the one comment who's like, you suck, you're like, why do I suck? You know? And that's reality. I think as a whole, like, it's comical to me. Like, someone wrote, you're a backstabbing piece of shit, blah, 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 blah. And if I ever saw you in person, I would spit in your face. So I sent him my tour schedule, and I said, here's where I'll be, but just know there's a 2-drink minimum at all these clubs.
That's funny.
But then, like, my brother called me. He's like, take that shit down, because he's like, you're now messing with a crazy person who might say, you know what? I'm going to fucking fly to New York now and spit in this guy's face just to prove him. Like, because you have to look at it this way. Like, I got this email right before I went on a podcast last night, and it, like, actually rattled me, because, not rattled me, that's the wrong word, but I was like, how messed up people are. It was an email to my personal email address, and it was like, just want to let you know you're a backstabbing piece of shit, blah, 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 blah. We hope your career sucks. I'm a backstabber because there was a lot of reasons racially why they didn't like me.
Yeah.
Because of things because I helped somebody of another race, according to them. So, therefore, you know who this is coming from. People who are angry that you're, I don't know. And then they were like, I can't wait to watch your career go down, and I'm going to do everything in my power to prevent it from going on. But, like, I'm talking about 3 paragraphs, right? And then I thought to myself, after I was like upset, I said, you know, like, my wife and I watched, I don't know, your show, right? We watched your show. And I'm like, I don't like person X. Then we talk about person X, and we're like, wow, what a piece of shit person X is. wow, they really suck. And then we move on with our lives. And
Yeah.
then like someone there is like, this guy Gasper, I hate him so much that not only am I going to hate him, I'm going to message him on his email. Like, I'm going to write a whole thing. Like, you took all this time out of your day. Like, something's wrong with you.
Yeah,
so
truly,
it's like,
truly.
So it's like, why am I going to care? Like, I'll just go read the thousands of comments that said that I was nice. You know, but it is unsettling.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, and it's hard because, like, yeah, I don't know. There's so much to unpack, and like I was used to having a large audience. Like I've had millions of followers for the last couple of years. I'm used to having an audience, and the people that follow me give me the benefit of the doubt that I mean well on everything that I do. So all of a sudden the show comes out, and I didn't realize that reality TV viewers don't give you the benefit of the doubt on anything. Like in my show, I said I'm going to buy a Corvette and donate money to kids in South Dakota where I live. Donate to Native American people. That's what I'm going to do. And there's so many people that are like, he's full of shit. He's not actually going to do that. It's like, how do you know I'm not going to do that? Like, what do you mean you can tell me what I am and what I'm not going to do?
Based on snippets of reality TV.
Yeah. And then I remember seeing some tweets that are like, I bet he's not even really a teacher. It's like, bro, I've got 4 years of content about being a teacher. Like, what do you want?
But the thing that's sad too is like, you know, Netflix told me this, and no matter how much they tell you, it's still like a tough pill to swallow. Like Netflix said, like, hey, listen, you're in this teacher world right now where pretty much all your followers are like women ages, 25 to 45 with kids, like who are fearful that they could lose their job if like they wrote something negative, like there's a lot more to it than just like, I'm a teacher, like a teacher can't go online and be like, I'll spit in your face if I ever saw you. Because if I really wanted, I would screenshot this person's picture because I have it. Right. And I would blast it on everything. And I would say, who knows this person? Then I would find out where he works. Then I would let them know, hey, this is what your employee says to people that were on a game show. At midnight. At midnight, he messages people on a game show at midnight. So now the average teacher won't do that because they're afraid of that happening. But like Netflix straight up was like, you are now talking about every person in the world. Like most people don't give a damn. What are you going to do? I live in my mom's basement and I'm a loser and I'm going to now message you because who are you going to call? My mom? You know what I'm saying? Like they don't care. And Netflix straight up said that to us. They were like, you're dealing with a different group of people now. This is worldwide. So
yeah, and I think one of the things that's interesting with reality TV, like I think of professional athletes, and people get tired of professional athletes when they're complaining about how hard life is and people being mean to them when they're getting paid millions upon millions of dollars. People don't want to hear that from professional athletes. And I think people that don't understand really the ins and outs of reality TV, they would get annoyed by hearing this and be like, oh, they're just complaining about how hard life is on reality TV. But here's the deal. There isn't a huge financial payout for putting yourself in that situation. Like, I don't know, I made a couple grand off of being on my show. That's it.
Yeah.
So you're exposing yourself to a whole new, like, to a lot of hate, and you're really not seeing a lot of, like, positives that come from it, if you know what I mean. Like, it's a weird situation because you're not a pro athlete getting paid $40 million to do this. You're just getting paid a couple grand, and now you have to deal with what people are saying on the internet.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like, you could say LeBron James is like, woe is me, everywhere I go, people follow me. But LeBron James is making millions and millions, billions of dollars almost. Yeah. We're not making that. So when you're coming at us, especially like you and I, we're in a classroom teaching. So like, it does suck when like an article prints and it's like, piece of shit, Gasper Rizzo, Gabe Dandenbring, and you're like, oh, like here I am trying to be a teacher and like some random blogger is like, let me make a video saying that he sucks. And you're like, oh, okay. You know, so
people think they own us because they watched us on their television.
And like, it was funny too. Like, a lot of my students, but this was like the best compliment I got. Like one of my students said, Mr. Ndazzo, I thought you just like put on an act in front of us that like you're crazy and like you're always like fooling around. he's like, but after watching the show, he's like, I'm pretty sure that's just you. And I'm like, yeah, dude. I'm like, it was reality. I just went on as myself. Like, I didn't play a game. And like, people were like, well, what was your strategy? I'm like, my strategy was to be in the house. Like, I didn't have a strategy because, number one, I didn't know what the game was. Yeah. So, like, Big Brother, you go in and you're like, I'm going to do this because this person did it and they won and you know what I mean? Like, this show, everything we're hearing it for the first time as far as, like, what the game is, what the competition is. So you're just, like, living in the moment, you know? Yeah. So the best comment I saw was someone said, do you ever see the show Jury Duty?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you see I posted that? Someone was like, is it just me or is Gasper getting jury dutied right now? He's the only one who acts normal and everything around him is crazy. And he's like, oh, well. And I was like, that's the best comment that I saw.
Dude, you're like, so Annie and I, we were watching the show and we were just comparing it to like mine. And the casting that your show had, perfect, dude. It was so perfect because there was so like, and this is just from the viewer's perspective. I'm sure it was different living in the moment. If you made the slightest mistake in a word that you said, you could have a room full of people so angry at you. Like they had such good extremes of personalities on your show.
But we were also like the extreme of everything. Yeah. Like, you know, like the extreme country guy, the extreme New Yorker, I guess is what I played. The extreme military guy. Like literally it was like they were like find it and then go more. But you know what makes me laugh? Like we're all put in boxes. So like for your show you were probably like, you know, the good looking guy, the teacher, you know, like the funny, nice, whatever it was. And like, isn't it weird to think that there was like, you were 1A, then there was 1B. So like there's some guy out there who probably looks very much like you who was like an extra or an alternate that just didn't get put on the show.
Dude, here's what's crazy. After we got, like, the show came out, a bunch of us cast members got DMs from people that were like, hey, we were the rehearsal crew that went on the show before you went on. We're like, what do you mean you're the rehearsal? They did a full dry run of our show with, like, stunt doubles. Like, they did a full dry run. So weird. We saw these pictures, and we're like, oh, that's Shay's stunt double. There's my stunt double. There's, you know, Eva's stunt double. And it was like, you know those pictures of when they take the stunt double and put it, like, just above the actor? That's what it was. And I was like, that's crazy that they filmed the entire show before we went on. Like, they did the show 2 times. Did you guys have that?
So we had, they had simulations in focus groups. Like, so he told us that like they did a simulation like 600 times of our show with different groups of people. Wow. Not necessarily like, you know, 600 full on go to Dominican Republic and run the show. You know what I mean? Like they did it in like in-house or whatever he said it was. And, he said in not one simulation that they did me and the cowboy get really close like we did. Like, you know, no matter how many times they ran the simulation, it didn't play out like they thought it would.
That's
because
crazy.
The simulation doesn't take into account real life emotions, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
that's insane. Well, and we're ignorant to think that these multi-million-dollar productions aren't thought out extremely thoroughly.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. And like, you know, it was great. Like, and I mean, we can't talk too much about like behind the scenes stuff, but like, as far as like, there were nights where like I would go to bed and I'd be like, wow, this is really well thought out. Like this shit's like really smart. Like this is really a cool concept. And like the director at the end was like, yeah, dude, because you guys were playing checkers. We were playing chess. Like anything that you thought or said out loud, we were just moving pieces to combat what you said. So if you're like, oh, you know, I think I figured it out. Like tomorrow they're going to want us to get rid of Gabe. And it's like, even if that was the plan, now we're flipping it because we're going to throw you off your game. So it's
they're
like,
truly puppeteers. They're puppeteers and you were just puppets.
Yeah. So, and you felt it because when you're in the house and you look around, there's 50 mounted cameras on every wall. Everywhere you go, there's a camera and they're moving with you. You know,
dude, that makes you feel so little when you walk by and the camera just follows you. You're like, is there a room full of people that are talking about this right now? And there is. Like there 100% is a room of producers that are watching everything that you do and everything you say, and they're trying to stir the pot. Like they know exactly what they're doing.
And like, that's the thing. Like, and it's so funny because like I would go to say something to a producer and they're like, yeah, we already know. Like you said it on the third day and we heard it like 18 times. Because also, you know what it's like when you're on those shows, you're having a conversation with one person. Then you walk to another room and you're having basically the same conversation. If someone says, what do you do for a living? Now you're just repeating it, 5 different times. And that's about everything. So it's that part's super interesting too. Like how much you don't like, I try to explain to people, I said, they filmed us 24/7 for like 23 days. So like you're then condensing it into 8 45-minute episodes. So like how they do that, it's like if I might have told you the funniest story ever, but if it's not relevant to the show, it's not going to end up on the show. And that's really what it comes down to. Because like people said, in one of the episodes, the girl said, Julia says,
tired of Gasper's stories.
I'm tired of Gasper's stories. But they had never shown me telling a story.
Yeah.
So it's so funny because it's like, you're tired of my stories. So people were like, like you laid low those first 4 episodes. You didn't even talk in the house. And I'm like, oh no. I was talking the whole time. They just don't air it, like, and I mean, and then as you watch more, it becomes apparent that obviously like I'm a big talker in the house, but it's just comical that, you don't see it at all. But like from day one, I'm telling stories because that's what I do. So it's like, that part was funny.
And it's interesting what they cut and what they keep. You might say something on a Wednesday and they'll cut that scene to make it look like you said that on a Friday. Like they will move things around. Like there was one scene in my show where a guy that I had an alliance with, they made it look like I had eliminated him. And in reality, I didn't eliminate him. I said, no, I'm not going to vote him out. And then he gets eliminated and voted out. And then they cut to me and it made it look like I was laughing. It would look like I was smirking. I took so much heat for that on the internet. And I want to say that didn't happen that way. That isn't reality. That is, it's cut. Like, and some rational people are like, oh, they probably cut it that way to stir emotion. But so many people saw that little scene and now they can say he's a piece of shit because he did this. Yeah. Screw that guy.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, even like one scene with the cowboy in mind, he said, I guess we're going to have to get rid of Jake, but I really don't want to. But like something like that. And they just left, I guess we're going to have to get rid of Jake. And he's like, but I would never do it, or whatever he said. They left that out. And he's like, that's not what I said. Like he said, I'm not going to do it. Like we have to do it, but I'm not going to be the one to do it or whatever.
Yeah.
And,
well, same with me. Like I had a scene with Aaron where like, it's like, okay, one of us has to go down to camp or stay in the villa. And he's like, okay, I'll go down to camp. And then I say, all right, because you're going down to camp, I'll split the money with you 50-50 if I win. They cut that. Like they weren't going to put that in there.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, look, at the end of the day, like you said, we put ourselves out there. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things like, the girls on my show didn't expect to take a ton of heat. They thought like we did good. We were nice. We did this, we did that. And it's like, nope, the internet hates you. So it's like, at the end of the day, you put yourself out there and you just hope that but here's the other thing with the whole concept of a good edit and a bad edit. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, some of the stuff you did say it, not you, just in general. Like, so yes, some stuff could be manipulated, but people were like, oh, you got a good edit. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't really say anything that would make me have a horrible edit. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't go after anybody. I didn't fight with anybody. So like, they can't pull that footage because it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. So, but of course, but I do agree. Like, there are certain things, like even with mine, they made everybody get in a line. They made it look like I was like rolling my eyes. We also played the game for an hour before, they showed 1 minute of the game, but they have your reaction for an hour's worth of stuff. Yeah. So it's like, you could really do whatever you want. Yeah. So
there's so many things with the edits that it's interesting. And that's like, for me, like, yeah, I was so polarizing because I was a wrecking ball and I went in with like the intention of I'm playing a game. I like these people, but I will eliminate them. Like I am here to play a game. There's one winner and I'm going to go into it and hope to win. And I think I was pretty polarizing because I eliminated people's favorite person on the show. Yeah. And so they feel some type of way because now the person they liked watching on the show is eliminated. So be it. Like, it's a game. And
And you know what? Like when I met up with some of the people in LA that I eliminated, and people were like, was it awkward? And I'm like, no, because at the end of the day, when we saw each other, I was like one of them made like a TikTok video about me and like basically saying how like she was shocked at what happened. And I messaged her. I said, look, I watched your video and I'll explain it all to you when we're in LA. And when I did, she was like, you know what? Thank you for explaining. Like, I didn't see it that way, but I understand how you see it. And she's like, honestly, like, good game. Like, you know, like, that's a good game move on your part. And like, and she's a fan of reality TV. And I said to her, I was like, she's like, game recognizes game. And I said, at the end of the day, like, if the Chiefs are playing the Lions in the Super Bowl and they win, they're not going to apologize and be like, sorry, I beat you at a game. Like, we're trying to win a game here. So I said I had to do what was best for my game because I am trying to win. I didn't resign from being a teacher to not win.
Yeah. So, well, because I had the same the same scenario. So, and here's the analogy that I use, and it could be a good analogy if you want it to be, or it could be the dumbest analogy ever. But I kept seeing stuff about he's privileged, he has this, he has that, he didn't deserve the money. Reality TV is not a game of who deserves the money the most. That's not what it is. And the analogy I use is, okay, Tom Brady for a lot of years was throwing bombs and throwing touchdowns over the head of a lot of cornerbacks who needed the money more than Tom Brady. So was Tom Brady a piece of shit for throwing touchdowns when other people needed the Super Bowl bonus, when other people needed their win bonus? No, he's not. So Tom Brady's not a bad guy for doing that.
For beating them.
People look at reality TV that way, where some look at it as a competition of, hey, here's all these people. Who deserves the money the most? Everyone's got a reason why they deserve the money. And if you play a game based off of that, all right, I guess I get it. But whoever wins and is the most deserving of the money, guess what? There's other people out there in the world who could use the money more than them. You can keep playing that game forever on who deserves the money the most.
And that's the other thing. The question was never who deserves it the most. It's who want it's like playing lotto, should someone not collect their money if they play lotto and they have money? You know what I mean? Like, and I know it's not the greatest analogy, but at the end of the day, it's a game. I mean, it's a game. And most people, honestly, are on there to be on TV. It's not necessarily fully about the money either. So,
I think people take it too seriously, and I think the ones who take it the least seriously are the people who are on the show because they understand, like they get it. And I get really frustrated when people think it is real life what reality TV is. Reality TV is not real life. Reality TV is WWE. Yeah, the people on WWE are real human beings, but there's a character that they're playing. And reality TV puts you into a box and makes you one-dimensional and makes you a character.
I will say, like, it is comical to me. Like, yes, I did win. Yes, it was a lot of money, right? But, like, people comment things like, oh, like, you clearly didn't win because you're still a teacher. And I'm like, guys, like, I live in New York City. It's $50,000. I even say it on the show. Like, my daughter's daycare last year was $24,000.
Jeez.
So, like, where am I retiring to? I won $50,000. That's a lot of money. Do not get me wrong. But, like, that's not enough to retire. That's not enough. And then don't forget, like, they tax it. So, like, now, like, and then, like, I just had some guy message me this morning, and he's like, hey, man, loved you on the show. You were great, blah, 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 blah. Really interesting. I was like, thank you so much. And he's like, can I ask a favor of you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Thinking he's going to be like, give me a shout out, something stupid. Like, he was like, can I borrow $40? I'm really hard up on money right now. I'm moving from Illinois to California, this whole thing. So I said, no. I said, sorry that you're going through that. Unfortunately, I have a family. Like, I don't even know you. You just DM'd a stranger to ask for money because you saw that I won money. And he wrote, no problem, completely understand. I just figured I'd ask if you wanted to help. Fast forward 20 minutes later, he wrote, now that I think about it, you're a piece of shit. He said, you're a piece of shit. He said, you're greedy as hell, and I'm going to tell everybody that you're a piece of shit. And I wrote, all right, cool, thanks. Like, what am I supposed to say to that? Oh, okay, here's $40. Please don't tell anybody I'm a piece of shit. Like, you're probably a piece of shit for doing that. So anyone you're telling that I'm a piece of shit, no problem if they also think I'm a piece of shit. Like, but what is this logic that, like, you're asking a stranger, like, and you know what? Like, people probably do. Like, think about like Taylor Swift. People probably just message her and they're like, hey, I need money. I'm broke. And then get mad when these people don't respond. But like, what are you supposed to do? Help every person who's just asking you? I don't know you from a hole in the wall. So like.
Well, and I think part of it, it's like the teacher mindset of like students all the time want teachers to break the rules for them. And it's like, hey, I can't break the rules for you because now this is going to apply to everybody else in the classroom. Like, if I allow you to break the rules, 28 other people are now going to be allowed to break the rules. And it applies to when people ask for money online. It's like, no, if I start the precedent of giving it to you, there's millions of people who also need money. So am I going to give to everybody now? Like,
and it's not
what
like
do you want
it's
me to do?
This is the only thing that, not the only, but it's pretty cool. Like, that people are now like, so before this, I would get stopped, I'm sure you as well, by a lot of teachers. And that would be it. It would just be teachers. But it's like kind of cool now that like females 25 to 45 are stopping me. Like, I was like at my daughter's dance school and this guy just looks at me. He's like, oh shit, I'm watching you on TV right now. Not a teacher, not anything that would normally know who I was. And he's like, yo, keep up the good work. Like, it's just funny because it's like now all of a sudden like a new audience recognizes like who we are. And I'm sure, do you still get that, or is that like died down?
It peaked for a little bit, and then now it's definitely dipped. I still get recognized more for social media stuff, but yeah, when this show was out, it was hot. I mean, like when you're like, you guys were number 2 in the US, we were number 4, I think was the highest. That's a lot of people watching your show. So yeah, they're gonna recognize you every now and then. So it's cool, but yeah, man, I was happy for you watching that show. I thought you did a great job. You did such a good job.
I appreciate it. And it's funny because like I know you, so when I watched your show, it's such a different feel. Like, and it's probably, I'm sure a lot of people who follow you on social media felt like they're watching their friend. Because like I got a ton of messages like, I feel like I'm watching my friend on the Trust right now. Like, and that's cool because it's like, that also means that like I'm doing my job, quote unquote, as like whatever this internet stuff is, that like people feel that connection, that they're like, oh, like we're close and I want to see him do well. Like that makes me happy because it's like, oh, you're seeing like the real me and you're seeing it's not different from the social media. And like you've done a show with me, like you saw like after the show how many people come up to me and they're like, oh, you're exactly what you are on social media. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like, sorry. Like,
yeah, it's not an act. So, it's real life.
Yeah. So speaking of, Gabe and I will actually be together in New York City at the Stand on February 18th doing a stand-up comedy show. It is unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, fortunately for us, it is sold out already. But, you can get tickets to any other shows at GasperRandazzo.com or find me on Instagram at StandUpRandazzo.
But we did come up with a new ticket offer for $50,000. If you want to hang out with us in the green room, you can purchase one of those tickets for $50,000. Offers on the table, cash only, $50,000. Hang out with us in the green room. Then it's not sold out.
It's not sold out. We have comp tickets. I didn't hear the whole thing because you froze, but I heard 50,000, then I heard green room. As long as nowhere in between that was like you get to sleep with us, I'm good.
Very good. All right, brother. Peace out.
All right, later, man.